Right. Welcome to Working Group API Expression. It's the 4th of August 2020, and we have a few points on the agenda. Anton, is this one from you? The update status and progress made?
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes, but it's just the status that we usually do.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
There you go.
Okay, you guys have a design proposal.
So this is for supporting apply in a type-safe way through the Go client. So this is how would you define a manifest or an applied configuration in Go? You can't just use the structs that we have today because of zero values. You can't know, if somebody were to construct a deployment using the typical Go structs, the resulting deployment might have replicas set to its zero value, and you don't really know if they had intended to set that or if it's just because the zero value automatically gets set for that field. So we need some way to construct exactly a applied configuration from Go. So what we did is at the top of this document, there's a YAML example which can't be constructed from Go structs, but we should be able to construct. And then what we've done is we've gone through just the design space for this. So what are the different ways that you could imagine doing this? Could you construct some new kind of Go structs that did it? Could you use some kind of builder pattern where you call functions and that constructs the object for you? Could you, do a couple of the other alternatives that we listed? Those are the main two ones, and what we're really looking for is feedback on if people agree that these are viable options, if they agree with the cosmetics, like the ergonomics of these. Do these look like Go idiomatic things? What could we do to improve them? Stuff like that. If you're going to use Go structs, then obviously you need to have a way to omit anything completely. So you probably end up with a lot more indirection or pointers or something in the structs. If you use builders, you have something like you can see on the screen right now, where there's a couple different ways we could imagine doing this, but where you basically call functions, some of them which may, return the next object to be constructed or return the object you just set a field on to do the construction. So I think the questions that we had were, what should be the next steps? We'll obviously give people a chance to look at this, give some feedback. We'd like to focus on getting a prototype going as soon as possible. So if anybody has any thoughts, we would like to incorporate those as soon as possible so that we can start prototyping basically today or tomorrow along one of these lines, which doesn't mean we can't switch tracks. It just means that we'd like to pick one to start working on. And then once we agree on it, we were curious what next steps are. Should we be updating the existing CAP? Should we be creating a new CAP? What would be appropriate?
All right. That sounds really great. You put a lot of work in it. It's sad that Go makes us do this. I don't know.
Some of those things could be masked over, so you can see there in spec that we're then providing a spec. It doesn't have to be that way. You could either call spec and have it automatically construct one from you, and then you would avoid having to do that, and you could just do spec up and open close parentheses dot and then field names, or you could have like a new spec. So there's a couple different ways that we could do this with the builders. You actually have like the full flexibility, which is one of the nice things about the builders. You can kind of extend them in different ways, right? Of course, what you got to do with the builders presumably is either you're building an unstructured under the hood, or you're populating the Go types plus some kind of field mask so that you're able to track exactly what your actually applied configuration should contain.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, do you have? I guess we should post it on Slack as well and ask for more feedback if it's not already posted.
Yeah, I think one thing that I could really get help with, just from this meeting specifically, is where else should I post this? How should I get all the appropriate people involved? So post on Slack sounds like one thing.
Yeah, this is extremely close to what SIG API machinery does in general. I feel like they've been responsible so far for clients in general. And a lot of people in the API machinery group have an opinion about this, I think. So we
Yeah.
should definitely post it. Maybe even talk about it next week during the meeting.
Yeah.
I think
that makes sense.
We can keep on options, and then next week we're gonna have something, maybe an actual proposal to make.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. Like, this is a document for like a draft now. I think some of the options can already be filtered out, but at what point should it be a cap and be discussed on GitHub? Like,
we'd like to get there pretty quick. We'd like to get there in like a week or two. So at least start opening a cap in like a week or two once we have a prototype. One thing, Antoine, that you made me think of that I think is really important is, just because we're building these builders for apply doesn't mean they're specific to apply, right? You're building objects. And so if we add this functionality, it might be that it shouldn't. I don't know. Like, this is a question for groups, but of people to answer. But should you only be able to build manifests with this, or you should be able to build any object with this? And if so, then it does definitely kind of overlap with API machinery.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay. So we'll take it to the API machinery SIG, and yeah, please everybody look it over.
Yeah, and so far our only concern is Go as well, I guess. Like, the other clients have different language features. We shouldn't. What did it do? Thanks. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I think Go. We might want to phrase that carefully, but we'll be setting an example when we decide what to do with Go. But other languages can do this in very different ways and leverage their own language features.
Okay, I have a few not ideas but suggestions to make on this document, but I think we'll be able to move forward quickly on that. So that sounds good.
Right.
Cool. All right. Then naming for tombstones. I think that's also you, Joe.
Yeah, I won't say as much on this one, but I think we mentioned this in a previous meeting. What we're doing here is just adding again a way to very directly say that you want a field to be gone and retain an opinion about that field, even though it's absent. So you could say, there's a lot of things you can express in this. You could have a controller say that if you're deprecating an annotation, that it goes and takes ownership of that annotation, tombstones it, and then if anybody tries to add it again, they get a conflict. And there's a lot of simpler examples. So I think the main question is, there's only a couple lines up near the top where we show an example of what this might look like. Yes, right there. So the two highlighted ones. We're not sure what to name this. We do know that if you're doing a field, it probably needs to be a map with a single key and value. And if it's an associative map or list, then you have the second example where it's like you put this extra field next to the key fields that says that it doesn't exist. But I don't know what we should call those keys and values. And so would get a lot of value if people could just think about that and think of any names. There's a what to call it section there where we've listed out a bunch that we don't like, but we couldn't think of anything better.
I have two questions. Is this I suppose that's really valid YAML, like you can use a dollar symbol in a key?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's valid.
And for this one, like, or this one as well, like that would be an invalid field, so that would make manifests that are written for apply incompatible with being used for anything else. Is that true?
Yeah, that's right. That's one of the big implications of this is we don't know of a way to add this and still retain full, like you wouldn't be able to take like the Open API spec and still validate the doc. You would have to strip out the tombstoning first to do that. And one of the reasons why we couldn't think of a way to do that is when you have a field and its value is just whatever primitive type it is, there's really no value that you can pick that would be able to tell you to tombstone something. So we have to, if we want to put the tombstones in line like this, so they're in the doc in a convenient way, we have to introduce something that's not valid.
That also includes incompatibility with like editor syntax highlighting, auto completion, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it would. It would.
Yeah, okay.
We submit a second manifest that has the fields to be deleted in the same request.
Sorry, say that again?
Sorry if this has already been discussed, but could we send a second manifest that has fields to be deleted and the same request?
We did think about putting it somewhere on the side somewhere. It ends up being kind of difficult agronomically to make sure that you've got the right thing, because you have to either like construct a second manifest and make sure that it's paired with the first one, which is fairly burdensome to write correctly, or you have to like write field paths, which are fairly burdensome to get right. And getting, if we did do that, which is an alternative, then we'd have to get all the safety nets up for that, which could be quite a bit of work. So yeah, it is an alternative. If somebody wants to advocate it, I'd certainly be willing to discuss it. But this is the one that we were going to try and champion.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Right.
Yeah, just to finish on this topic, I feel like this is going to be more controversial than the other topic.
Mm-hmm.
So changing the type for hostname, for example, is hard for me to accept. Creating new fields maybe, but changing the type is kind of it's hard for me to be okay with it for now. And the other thing is that, especially for the containers thing, it's difficult. It's possible to both have does not exist and values, and I'm not completely sure how we should deal with that yet. Like, what if you have the item assertion and the image, for example?
I would consider that like an invalid document and try and give you a good validation here on what's wrong with it.
Because I could see how we could actually build a schema where we have the item assertion in literally every single list item. Like, we could have this thing exist.
Right.
And maybe hostname, we would have the ability to say, okay, hostname can be a string, but it can also be a struct that has exactly one field named field assertion that can have only one value being does not exist. So I would like to be able to have a schema that describes what we're trying to do.
I see your point.
See what I'm saying? I'd like not to cheat the schema.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think OpenAPI spec is capable of it. You would just have a different schema for the manifest than you would for the main items potentially.
Yeah, and I could see also how the container could have a schema being either you have name and item assertion, or you have name and the typical actual schema.
Right.
Would be using some sort of one-off, but at least we could even say we want either the item assertion, only the item assertion, or the other things.
Right. Yeah, you could do that with like some kind of union or enum in OpenAPI to make it so it's one or the other.
Yeah, we don't have a good way to do that in Go structs. But if we're using the actual client that we are planning on implementing, we can have it be, okay, as soon as you set the I don't want this item, then it's going to reset everything else.
Yeah.
But you need a smart client. But okay, yeah.
It needs to be at least a little smarter, right? Yeah.
So did you also?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. It's a different approach. Keep.
I was going to say there's some interplay between these two designs, because whatever we do for the Go client builders, if we're going to do tombstones in a particular way, it's going to have to support it in that way, right? So that's kind of one of the reasons why I've been trying to get these designs to be available at the same time, because I don't want to paint us into a corner with one design option that affects the other without being able to consider the interaction between the two.
Yeah. And to be honest, I know you want to move forward on the other one, but I feel like this one is a prerequisite for the other one. Like
it really is
going to be more important than the client.
Yeah, I think with the client, if we can agree on a direction to prototype, that's good enough for now. And then hopefully in the meantime, we can get some real progress on this.
Yeah.
I think it's partially what Jacob already asked. Did you, for the declarative field mention, we had the discussion about having a field that's only that's write only and not persistent. Like, did you look at an option where you specify field paths that get deleted?
We did. We considered that, and the main downside that we saw to trying to provide field paths is that they can be fairly burdensome to construct, and it's hard to know if you got it right, and it's pretty frustrating if you got it wrong and you're sending these things and you can't figure out what's wrong with it. With this, it's really obvious where to put the thing, and then when you read the document, it's really clear what's going on. So if you can see all the different applied documents, it's really clear like what's going on, what the interaction is. If it's off to the side somewhere, it becomes a little more of an expert problem to try and figure out what's going on. And we want to make it as obvious as possible.
That's true. It's also a challenge I saw people having with Kustomize, that they didn't know why something happened. They had to find the right place for it. Okay, yeah, that's a good point.
So we're really worried about this ergonomics. So we think from like a usability perspective, if you're just writing YAML in your editor, this is pretty close to as good as we can hope for. We couldn't find a better way for that case. We do recognize that like it does create some problems, especially around the type representation, right? Like it's no longer just a strict subset of the schemas that you do with normal objects. It's now like got this extra thing.
Yeah, I think my biggest concern is the compatibility with existing OpenAPI schema and editors and stuff, because the people and customers I watch, they rely on that because they know nothing about all the types. They just press control space. And if we can keep that, I don't know enough about OpenAPI schema, but that would be beautiful.
Okay. Yeah, let me look into that a little more. I'll add a section about it in the doc. That's really helpful.
Great. Then we reached our progress update. It should be here. All right, we should make SSA great for controllers. I saw Jenny is here. Do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I still need to get consensus on this, but it's not ready to be decided on. I think, are we focusing on the client, or are we trying to get this in first?
Hey Jenny, if you wanna focus on the client, maybe I can take this one.
That would be great.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, cool. I'll work on the cap.
All right. Yeah, status wiping is moving slowly. It's the most fun work you can do, copy pasting stuff and not making any mistakes while doing that. I'm staying on it and trying to get as much time as I can. Work is hard these days, but it's moving forward. Yeah, we had the API clients just now. I don't remember if I don't know if the person who added this or mentioned this last time added a comment here. Or is it? Yeah, we had a discussion about this. Okay, no new updates.
Yeah, I keep thinking about it a little bit, but I need to have some real time to focus on that. I can see how I don't want to go into the details right now, but I can see even how doing kubectl diff, and then actually applying is going to be different. And maybe you want to apply only the thing that you diffed. And so I'm trying to see how the general problem is. And I feel like when you apply, you only care about some fields, not all of them. Like most likely you don't care about the updates made to the status. So the resource version is not the best way to have this optimistic locking for these. So I'm curious if we could implement some sort of optimistic locking on some specific fields, the fields that you care about. So I'm basically trying to understand that. It's not very clear yet, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if we can ping him again, but it would probably not hurt to have some actual people that work this way describe how they do it or they want to do it. I mean, we had the issue raised, but
I joined last week and spoke about this. I think I'm beginning to comment on it still, but I think the problem statement is actually laid out pretty well. I have the exact same use case, an asynchronous plan, approve, and then apply a workflow. And we just want to make sure that what we apply is actually what we approved previously.
Okay.
Makes sense to me.
Yep. Sounds good. Mike said he's not here today. I don't think there was any more progress on the document. Same for topology, I guess. Did we do anything?
No. I've made a PR to improve the documentation, and it got merged. But and this is kind of mentioning. This is actually probably related to these. We've had a problem internally at Google where someone was mentioning that they didn't know they could use list type and list map keys for CRDs. And so I looked at the documentation and how the person could have misunderstood that, which was very obvious because we were not saying it explicitly. And so I tried to improve the documentation to make it clear that the OpenAPI tags can and are interpreted by server-side apply. So we have done some progress. I don't know if it's too early to address this issue.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to use the list map keys and list type stuff recently in a CRD, and I couldn't because our cluster is too old because we're on GKE. And we didn't get all our new stuff yet.
It's coming.
Yeah, I'm waiting for it. And I think I only knew that I could because I'm here now. So we can work on the docs. All right, we have directly convert CRD structural schema to SMD schema. And it's still pending approval, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Was there something new on the manually updating image feeds through sub-resources?
I think it's because the tests are flaky, and so they're not merging anything right now.
Hello, GitHub. Thanks. Tests are green now, as it seems.
Oh, maybe we need the mail. No, we don't need the milestone. It's just not open yet. Yeah.
Okay, so we need review from Daniel or somebody.
It's just that they're not leaving code freeze because the test suites are.
All right.
So we just need to we probably need to help fixing the flakes, and then we'll be able to merge that.
All right.
for the API service, we need expert help. That's new. I didn't see that last time.
Yeah.
And choice assigned to empty pot selector doesn't mean empty. Is that
I haven't made
basically
progress on that one.
Okay.
Let me circle back on that. That's a good reminder.
All right. Oh, that's under this item. Okay. Yeah. Is Julian here? No. What is
Yeah, we basically need to do a test, as we discussed about that last week, and I don't think we've made any progress, but we need to make a test about these.
All right. And we have to still fill out this. I added a few things to this question thingy. I'm waiting for Lachi, I don't know, to tell us when he has time, and we'll look at it together.
Yeah. Do you want me to do anything about it?
You can look at what I wrote, and I think a few questions are like addressed to the both of us. Like every one of us has to say something. I try to say some general things. If you see anything that's incorrect, but it's not super important, so keep it on your queue where it is. If you are busy.
Sure.
All right. Backlog. I don't think there's anything new, is there?
I think we're good, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah. One thing I saw while I was searching for servers and apply on GitHub, we have a few issues that don't have our tags. So if you see anything that seems related, feel free to tag it with our GitHub tags, so we get everything together.
Isn't this done by the bug scrub?
Partially, yeah. But not always. I thought I thought we have to edit a label ourselves, and we only get CC'd and assigned to the.
Yeah, well, if I'm CC'd, I'll typically look at it, and if I look at it, I'll try and remember to set the tag.
Yeah. I don't think we should go through all the tabs I have open now. At least if you.
No, please no.
Yeah, I'll if I find something that we should look at, I'll post it on Slack or add it to the agenda or doc and mention people. I just wanted to see how other projects have problems and if we're causing anything. All right, then I think we're good.
Awesome.
It's 4th.
Great, thanks everybody. And Jenny will be doing a lot of the work on the Go client, so be sure to circle her in if you want to talk about that.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks everyone.
Then have a good remaining morning for you.
Thank you. See you soon.
See you.